Okay, the purpose of this video is to show you some different problems you can run into when you combine brake line excess with toggles, which you can't avoid, or a removable deployment system, and typically higher performance canopies. And so we'll break it down and show you several different things. Okay, I'm going to show you what happened during the control line malfunction I had on Saturday. If you're interested, it's definitely something that can happen as a result of how you stow or don't stow your control line excess. It's a problem, I think, on many risers, but specifically this type of riser and toggle. And I'll show you why I think it's a problem, and I'm simply showing this as an educational thing so that maybe you don't have the same thing happen that I did. Okay, so you can see it is still in the configuration that it was in when I had the malfunction. So this is the back of the rear riser, and you can see the toggle is attached to the excess, which is going through the elastic strap that is on the back of Javelin risers, or swoop risers in any case. You can see the excess is coming through, and it trapped the bottom end of the toggle right like that. And when it did that, obviously there's tension on that part of the line, so it pulls it tight, and the fact that you've got this tab there makes it almost impossible to clear. It's clearable, but it's very hard to do, especially on a radical high performance canopy that anytime you're leaning or pulling on the toggle in a certain way, it's in a dive and it's losing altitude, so you get limited time. So if you look at the front, you can kind of see that. I'm going to show you here in this next clip how I had stowed it and how it happened. All right, so typically, this is how this toggle looks. The top part is stowed. You've got toggle tip through the cat eye in the keeper, and then the bottom you would normally just tuck into that keeper, and that's normally what we do. Then the brake line excess goes back through there. You can try to double this up and stick it back up through there, but that elastic's tight and it's a pain in the ass. It's hard to do. And so if you leave it dangling, that's what a lot of people do. The problem with that is your RDS rings, if you have an RDS, they can get involved with this, and you can actually lark's head the RDS ring. And I've had this happen, and I've got a video of it, and I'll post it in there. But this ring can actually create a lark's head, and that is quite difficult to clear as well. And so I was shown a way to do this where you take the excess, you kind of take the tuck tab. This video sucks, I know, because I'm trying to do it myself. But you loop the excess through the tuck tab like that, and then you tuck it in at the bottom. So what that gives you is something that looks like this. So the excess is tucked under the tuck tab. You've got free access to the toggle, and you can release it. Here's the problem with that tuck tab technique. You get some of this excess getting blown up like such. It gets kind of blown through, and then it wants to wrap around the toggle like that. So it pulls through, and then it wants to wrap around the toggle. So if you release the toggle below it, you're fucked. And what I was doing is I was seeing this thing coming up, so I was trying to bring it down and release it, and I'll show you what happened. Okay, so you saw how that was. So it was blowing up and around like this, and I tried to pop it down, and I released the toggle, but what happened was this part caught the bottom of the tab, and so as soon as I released the toggle, it pulled tension as the brake line extended, and it trapped right there before the excess had time to come out. So that's essentially how I was trapped. All right, now here is a UPT riser. And here is why I think this is less likely to happen on this particular riser configuration, because you have this pin and you're going to put the excess through the pin and then tuck it up high, and I'll show you where that ends up. So you've got all this toggle below where that excess is, and it's much easier to clear that because there's a significant amount of toggle there as opposed to the other riser where the tab is at the very bottom. So that is that same technique where the excess is tucked there. You've got all this toggle below it, and it's kind of blowing like that when you open, and it just keeps things away. And when you pull, it just tends to disengage the pin first, or at the same time as the top of the toggle. So that will clear, and arguably you've already dropped your RDS in most situations. I guess in XRW you might pop your toggles before you get rid of your RDS, but I think in most situations we're taking the RDS off first. And I just, you know, it's the same technique. I guess there's the same potential problem, but to me it just looks much less likely to happen. And I've been doing it for a while with this type of riser, and I've never had that happen. And the last thing I would add is that, you know, you have to pay attention to when you're releasing your brakes. You know, ideally it's the first thing you do once you clear your airspace. When you have a removable deployment system on, I think most people are removing that first and then releasing their brakes. Maybe unless you're doing XRW, in which case you might release the brakes first and then stow the RDS. But no matter what you do, you need to release the brakes early enough in the canopy ride that you can deal with any potential malfunction related to releasing the brakes or cut away safely at a safe altitude. So food for thought. Hope it helps.